Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of The Bullet. My name is Paul Lathrop. I'm the Deputy Director of New Media for the Second Amendment Foundation. Joining me on today's episode of The Bullet, straight from the rundown, is Craig DeLuz. Craig, of course, you know him from Morning Coffee on Craig, and you know him from his work with the Firearms Policy Coalition. Craig, thanks for coming along today, man.
Always a pleasure, sir, man. It's been a while since we've been able to do this, so I'm glad to be back.
Yeah, I was on vacation for a week, and that included your normal Tuesday appearance, and before that, you had something going on so it's been about 6 weeks since we talked.
It's been a little bit, but we're back together now, so all is good.
Hey, there you go. To get things started off, I want to remind everybody, if you're watching on Polite Society Podcasts, Facebook, or YouTube feed, go ahead and comment on those feeds and we'll get your comments on the air. If you are catching us anywhere else, on Rumble, on Getter, on OpsLens, go to Twitter, tweet with the hashtag #TheBullet, and we'll get those comments, get them up as well. And I'm just finishing hooking up all the social media so I get them as they come in. Craig, the first story I wanted to talk about today, this comes off of Breitbart, as CNN uses misleading data, big shock, to claim over 100 mass shootings in 2023. Just a little bit from the story, CNN used misleading data from the Gun Violence Archive to claim Monday the U.S. has surpassed 100 mass shootings in 2023. The problem is both CNN and Gun Violence Archive departed from the standard definition for mass shootings, which RAND Corporation observed as being derived from the FBI's 1980s definition of a mass murder of an individual who kills 4 or more people in a single incident, not including himself. CNN and Gun Violence Archive decided, look, we're just going to change it to that you don't have to kill 4 people, you just have to have 4 people shot, and that can include the bad guy doing the shooting. So if the bad guy shoots and injures 3 and himself shot, that's a mass killing. That's a mass shooting right there. And they're using this to inflate numbers. What's your thoughts on this one, man?
Well, that's exactly it. When I studied statistics in college, my professor, one of the first things they said is, in statistics, there's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics. Pretty much they manipulate the data to say anything they want it to say. And what's funny when you have these discussions with them, or even when you read these articles, you'll notice that they jump and they change the statistic that they're using, but almost try to use them interchangeably. And one great example is like what you just talked about in terms of the definition of a mass shooter, of an active shooter incident. When they talk about, most gun violence amongst or shootings amongst industrialized countries, they do the same thing with suicides, and they redefine what is an industrialized country based on, okay, who has less shootings than the United States? They're industrialized. I mean, it is deception. And that's all it is. It is flat-out deception. And CNN knows it. The folks over at the Gun Archive know it. The folks over at Associated Press know this. They know that they are misrepresenting the truth. But they don't care because it's consistent with the narrative that they are trying to tell.
Yeah, it furthers their story, so they're going to just run with it.
Right. And it's not just a story. It's a narrative, and it has to be a narrative because their goal is a particular policy outcome. And that policy outcome is the disarmed citizenry in these United States.
Yeah, they want to make us more like Germany in the 1940s, just saying. Let's see here. I got to move things around so I can see. There we go. You got to be able to see comments as we go along, so if they're pertinent, I can get them up. Next story, lawmakers clash over Connecticut Governor Lamont's gun bill in Second Amendment battle. We covered this a little bit last weekend on the Bullet, and we covered it a little bit more yesterday. Connecticut's got a huge, I think it's a 73-page bill that the governor proposed, and it includes things like one gun a month, no more open carry, 18 to 20-year-olds can no longer buy firearms. It's working its way through the legislature right now, and Craig, both the House and the Senate in Connecticut are fairly heavily democratically ruled. It's going to take a huge part on the citizens of Connecticut to get in touch with their lawmakers and stop this. It's a very daunting task.
Well, it is. And these sorts of omnibus bills, interestingly, don't really do well. And that the reason why is because there are so many moving parts. And just to use as an example, the 18 to 21 ban on firearm ownership. That's already been challenged and beat in a couple of different courts. So that's a piece that is likely to not stand. The one gun a month is something that's being legally challenged. All of these things that they are proposing, and the reason why I think they're doing this is because they want to say we passed gun control, even though they know that it's eventually going to get shot down by the courts, because under this new standard, none of this stuff is going to hold water. Absolutely none of it.
Yeah, I think you're right, especially the 18 to 21. It's going to take a while, but I think the open carry will go away. The open carry ban will go away. I think that's going to take longer. One gun a month, I thought Virginia had that, and it was brought down by a court case, although it could have been. I know they had it. I know it went away. I thought it was a court case, but it could have been they just got a new legislature and the legislature did away with it. So
we have one in that's what we have in California, and it's going through the challenge is going through the process.
Okay. All right. Has it? And I've got to do this because I just added this for today. Has it been in front of Saint Benitez yet?
If it's still in place, then that means it has not been before St. Benitez. I do the.
Yes. We had a suggestion last night. And for those of you who are just catching the bullet and wondering what the hell I'm doing, we had a suggestion on Polite Society podcast last night that we need to get a sound effect of a choir, and if Masada Youb's name is said, just that sound effects plays, and I was able to get that done in about 10 minutes today, and I got to play with it a little bit. So let me get this comment in from Billy Cummings off Facebook. It's a great comment. Why did that not happen right? Give me this. I should have been more. That's why. Okay. And there we go. And let's try sending that again. In Delaware, we've had several state politicians state openly to the public and to the media, we know these bills aren't constitutional, but we'll run them through anyway. It will be up to you to spend the dollars to fight them, and we hope it breaks the bank.
Now, this is where I am a big believer in when you intentionally, because think about this. When they took an oath of office, they took a pledge to uphold the Constitution of the state of the United States of America and the Constitution of the state of wherever they're at. If you knowingly do something and take a position and pass a policy that you know is a violation of the Constitution, and then once again, if they've said this, that ought to be grounds for removal from office. Or at the very least, it ought to be grounds for you to any immunity that you have that normally comes with being in elective office from passing laws, you ought to lose. You ought to forfeit it, and you ought to be able to be sued, and potentially, in my opinion, I think in some cases they need to go to jail because it's a violation of their oath of office and it's abuse of power.
It absolutely is, and it's been said with several co-hosts here, and I'm coming to believe this, they ought to be individual legislators ought to have to pay for this out of their own pocket, not the state's pocket.
Right.
They need to be personally on the hook for this stuff too.
Well, especially when, like I said, because we had the chairman of the Public Safety Committee, Assembly Public Safety Committee, say, he literally said here, well, we don't do the Constitution here in California.
Yeah.
Of course. Now, having said that, I did pretty much tell him, look, I know the facts on the Constitution don't matter because, you're going to do what tyrannical governments do.
They just, I have to be careful of why I cannot say what I was going to say online, or it would have got us a YouTube and Facebook ban about that fast. But I had a thought that was not politically correct.
Yeah, the censorship, the tech demon censorship is a thing. It is a thing.
Next story, I got this one off of Missouri MO Lawyers Media. Federal judge strikes down Missouri gun rights law. A federal judge has struck down Missouri's Second Amendment Protection Act, finding the law to be an impermissible nullification attempt that violates the Supremacy Clause of the U.S. Constitution. SAPA's practical effects are counterintuitive to its stated purpose, U.S. District Judge Brian Wimes wrote in a March 7th order. While purporting to protect citizens, SAPA exposes citizens to greater harm by interfering with the federal government's ability to enforce lawfully enacted firearms regulations designed by Congress for the purpose of protecting citizens within the limits of the Constitution. And Missouri Attorney General Andrew Bailey immediately said he would appeal the ruling. Where I think this judge misses the mark is things like bump stock ban, the 80% ban, things where the individual agencies, more specifically in our case, the ATF, says, this is now the rules, so say us.
Right, and I think that's an important thing. But I'd be real interested to see if where this judge would stand on things like sanctuary state or sanctuary city laws, because because of the supremacy clause, those should be struck down as well, because they do specifically thwart the ability of the federal government of immigration laws to be federal immigration laws to be enforced, creating a danger to residents of those states or of those cities, and we know that. Now, I know this isn't a place for that policy. We're not going to debate that policy here. But my point is that I know that this very same judge would likely take a very different position on that than he is on this particular piece of legislation, on this particular Protection Act.
Well, and I know in the case of what you were referring to, the sanctuary city and sanctuary state for illegal immigrants, the way it normally works is we will not cooperate with the feds. It's not that we're going to stop the feds from doing what the feds do. We will not cooperate with the feds to the point where if somebody's in jail, we're not even calling ICE when they're going to be released, right, and we know they're an illegal immigrant.
Okay, so I'm not real knowledgeable about the background of the Missouri law,
right?
But if I understand it, it's pretty kind of the same thing, right? Or are they saying they're not going to allow feds to implement it?
I think where the Missouri, I do remember, went a little farther than almost anybody else has, and they made it a crime to enforce these laws, and that's where I think they were running into trouble.
Well, I think you could make it a crime for a local or state agency to enforce it. Well, basically because that's what they did in the sanctuary states. They made it illegal for a county sheriff or a city or a police chief to do certain things in enforcement of a federal immigration law. But they didn't prevent the feds from enforcing federal immigration law. So if that bill does that, then you're right, that might be a little bit different.
Yeah, and again, I am not an attorney. I do not play one on TV, and I would imagine this Friday is Alex Uli's day for Legal Friday. I will just about guarantee you this one's coming up. So, because Alex is an attorney. Next one, I only included this because this is the first time I've seen this this terminology. This is off KSAT out of San Antonio. State Senator Roland Gutierrez will unveil more gun safety legislation aimed at increasing school safety with Uvalde families at the state capitol on Tuesday. Gutierrez's office says the bills will focus on banning kid killer bullets, ensuring safe gun storage, and closing gun show loopholes. I'm going to go ahead and leave the rest of the story there. Craig, I don't know. What is a kid killer bullet? I do not know.
I have absolutely no idea what he means by a kid killer bullet. But this is another example of people who don't know anything about firearms just making stuff up. Because just so you know, I'm sure your viewers know. Assault weapon, yeah, that's not a thing. Ghost gun, yeah, that's not a thing. Gun violence, yeah, nope, sorry, still again, not a thing. Precursor parts, not a thing. I mean, the number of terms and terminology that these folks just make up out of nowhere and then give them definitions that are so cockamamie that they don't know what they mean. They just say, well, just look at the intent. Look at what we're trying to do. Yeah, and it doesn't really matter that what they're talking about doesn't actually do anything remotely like what they say they want to do.
Yeah, I'm excuse me, and the press conference would have just wrapped. It's too late for me to get what exactly a kid killer bullet is. I'll look into that after we go dark today and look for it on the bullet tomorrow.
I'm gonna guess that he's gonna be talking about hollow points, which once again, by someone who and I don't consider myself a firearm expert, I know that those are actually safer rounds. Number one, it's more likely if you hit what you aim at, it's more likely to stop what you aim at and protect you. But secondly, it's a lot less likely to go through what you're aiming at and hit something behind it.
That's exactly right. And if it weren't safer, would the FBI be issued them? Would 99% of local PDs, including New Jersey PDs, be assigned them?
I thought they only got air rifles.
Or have they gone all the way down to Nerf guns? I mean,
there you go. They're down to Nerf.
North Carolina got a story. This one off of WBTV.com. Proposed gun laws in North Carolina continue to make their way into the North Carolina General Assembly. Some pro-gun rights legislators have introduced bills that would remove some of the process in place to buy firearms, while others are looking at ways to stop gun violence and improve safety efforts for gun owners. North Carolina's Senate Bill 210 and its companion bill, House Bill 289, lay out an omnibus list of gun violence protection efforts that Mecklenburg County Senator Natasha Marcus called a menu of ideas. In other words, I want everything gone. Here's everything. She says, I'm inviting my Republican colleagues to take a look at this menu of ideas, all of which I think are popular, common sense things we could do to make North Carolinians feel more protected and less vulnerable to this constant threat of gun violence. And let me know which ones you want to work on. Which ones can we agree to, she said. If you're a representative or Senate member in North Carolina and you're worth your salt, the answer to that is not a single one.
Well, okay, so let's go back. So the first thing is, whenever they say common sense, it's more like common nonsense. Because it's coming from someone who does not know what they're talking about. They know nothing about firearms. They know nothing about firearm technology. And I know that just based on the litany of already tried, already introduced, in some cases already passed pieces of legislation that if it's here, it's been either proposed or it's been in place in California. And they can tell you right now, it ain't working. So that's number one. So and the fact that it's not working isn't about making people be more safe. It's about making people feel more safe. And the only thing that's going to make them feel more safe is if all of us citizens no longer have the ability to exercise our fundamental human right of self-defense or our constitutionally enumerated right to keep and bear arms. They just want to make sure all of us, and by the way, us does not necessarily include criminals. They may intend for it to include criminals, but it never does. So, yeah, no, this is a bunch of hooey, and once again, I think even she knows it, but, you know.
Oh, yeah.
And once again, this is another omnibus bill, because they know that eventually there's going to be rulings and they're not going to be able to pass this stuff, or if it does pass, it's going to wind up getting thrown out. So they got to say, I did something, before their ability to do anything is called into question.
Well, I really think that in North Carolina specifically, I've been talking with John Richardson of the Only Guns and Money blog, who lives there. I really think their pistol purchase permit is going away. And that's part of Jim Crow era law there. I think that's going away. They've got an outside chance of getting permitless carry. I don't know if that's going to happen, but at the very least, they're going to move forward this year. I seriously doubt that any of this has much of a chance, but it's out there. So, last story I got, Craig, for today. This is a Florida story off WUSFnews.com. Proposal would scrap 2018 law that raised age for buying long guns from 18 to 21. And just a couple paragraphs out of this one. 5 years ago, lawmakers increased the minimum age to purchase long guns after a 19-year-old used a semi-automatic rifle in the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas massacre. A bill would drop the age back to 18. Two House Republicans on Monday filed a proposal that would lower the minimum age from 21 to 18 to buy rifles and other long guns, potentially scrapping a high-profile change passed after the 2018 mass shooting. It's about time. I don't think they've stopped any bad things with this. And I've said it on the air a lot of times. You can join the military. You can get you can enter a contract. You can screw your life up even more by getting married to the wrong person. There's a lot of things you can do at age 18. Why are you not allowed to exercise your constitutional right?
You're either an adult or you're not. Let's be clear. If we want to change the age at which you become an adult, then let's do that as a society. But let's not say, okay, for some things you're an adult and for some things you're not. And I just want to be clear. Senator Rick Scott was the governor who signed this into law. So keep that in mind as you are considering whoever, I know I'm not saying he's planning to run for president, but he definitely seems like he's trying to put himself in a position to throw his hat in the ring. If he's being considered for president or vice president, if you're a single issue voter and that issue is the Second Amendment, I just want y'all to remember that. Also remember that not everybody who has an R after their name is pro-Second Amendment. There's a greater likelihood that they are, but not everybody is. And I say that as a card-carrying member of the vast right-wing conspiracy. But I'll tell you right now, I vote for people based on their values. And if a person says they are a Republican, then among those values better be support for the Second Amendment.
Amen. It did not make show notes, and so I didn't have the link for you before we went live, but I did while I was looking for stories today. I did run across a story where there's a group of Republican House and Senate members in Florida that are against the constitutional carry initiative or the permitless carry. And let's be absolutely clear about this. In Florida, it is permitless because it does not include open carry. But there's a group of legislators from the Miami area who are Republicans are saying they're against it. And it made the Miami Herald today. And yeah, just because somebody has an R behind their name does not mean they're your friend.
And what I will say is this: is that there's two groups of people that tend to be Republicans who tend to be against this. You've got one group that is the law and order Republicans, who will listen to whatever law enforcement agency will tell them, and unfortunately, a lot of times they put law and order above liberty and rights. Cops want to. I hate to say this, but when it comes to their higher ups, the people who run some of these departments, they would rather have more information on you, more of an invasion on your rights in order to implement what they call public safety. I happen to have an issue with that because I think sometimes they're willing to violate your liberty in order for them to provide you with some security. The other group are people who believe, well, we need to have training. And don't get me wrong, I am an advocate for training. I believe that no matter how experienced you are, you need to be getting training and need to train on the regular, need to be taking classes on the regular. But what we have seen is wherever training requirements are put in place, they become the ceiling, not the floor. In other words, people tend to, well, if I have that much training, that ought to be enough because that's all the law requires. Where there are not training requirements, you tend to have people who tend to take more training. And that's just, that's just my personal experience. And I think trainers that I know in areas where training requirements either were in place and have been removed, or in places where there were no training requirements, they were added. That's where I get that. That's where I get that input from.
Well, and I can back that up with this. I myself have, I know some other people that have, but we are in the vast minority. When was the last time you took driving training after you finished driver's ed? People just don't. I got my license, that's all I need. There are some that have, specifically racers, specifically truck drivers, or people who earn their living with their license do get further training. But average mom and dad, nope. I learned all I need to know.
The only time they go to get more training is when they need to go to traffic school to get a mark removed from their driver's license.
Which,
and nobody takes that seriously.
To start with, they probably wouldn't have had the mark. not saying I'm a saint or anything, but get this comment in. CNT Designs and Arms says government agencies will violate your right, and then if you resist, they add charges, even if there was no charge to start with. I think that's accurate. What do you think, Craig?
No, I think it's 100% accurate.
All righty, man. We are down at the bottom of the hour. You and I, we could do another half an hour. I think even without stories to go off, I think we could do another half an hour. But in order for time constraints for other things, I do need to keep these short. Craig, if you would tell everybody about the rundown. Are we up to daily for morning coffee with Craig? Or are we still twice a week? Or what's going on there?
Actually, we're up to 3 days a week now, so you can find that at wherever YouTube/gun policy or Facebook/gun policy, or just find the link by going to firearmspolicy.org. Or you can. Best thing to do is watch us on the rundown. We're on just before this program is, unless you're watching this on OpsLens. But we're on just before this is on Facebook and on YouTube. You can find us at therundown.us. That's therundown.us. And then once again, you can find us on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you get. Oh, by the way, it's also an audio podcast. So wherever you get your audio podcasts.
Yeah, if you want to get it, it's there. There's multiple ways to get it.
Yeah, just sometimes there's a lot of rundowns. So if you want to be real specific, the rundown, 2A News and Conservative Views.
There you go. On my end, I want to remind everybody it is Tuesday because I'm talking with Craig. It's Tuesday. We're going to have tomorrow is usually Amanda Suffolcool's day. She's out this week. She's got things she's doing for Ohio. And Charlie Cook is going to be stepping back in tomorrow, so that's tomorrow's bullet. Thursday is Craig's partner, Mike Piwowarski, is going to be here. And Friday, as I said earlier, is Legal Friday with Alex Uli. Coming up this weekend on Saturday, I'm really looking forward to this one. We have, there we go, Tom Walls. Get the Tom Walls and Rebecca Schmoy and Alex Uli are going to be on this Saturday for the weekend edition of the Bullet. That is going to do it for us today. Thanks for contributing by commenting. Thanks for watching. Podcast listeners, thanks for listening, and we'll see you